watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 132, Using Java with XPages, Part 1. This series came from a Skype chat. I guess social can have some benefits. Alright, here's just a quick slide on my main two websites, NotesIn9.com and cheatsheet.notesin9.com. I've got the online cheat sheet, etc. Nothing really new there. But what is new, which you may not have seen, is here's my contact information. Now, I have this at the end of every show, and I'm putting it here in the beginning just to make it easier in case you never actually watch it all the way through to the end. But if you do have a problem, feel free to email me. My Twitter is here for my David Leedy account or NotesIn9 account. Now, I can't be tech support for the world. That's what Stack Overflow is for, and I defer a lot of things to there. But it came up yesterday where a buddy of mine had somebody who needed something but was afraid to email me apparently for whatever silly reason. So I said, I put my email address on each show for a reason. So feel free to email me. The worst thing I can do is not be able to help you. But maybe I can provide you guidance, point you to a blog post or just tell you to go to Stack Overflow. If you have any questions on the show, if you just want to say hi, go ahead and say hi. I'm going to be at a Lotus Sphere or IBM Connect next month, whatever they're going to call it this year. And, I want to meet anybody who wants to say hi. I'll shake your hand. I might even buy you a drink. You never know. So don't be afraid to drop a line and tell me if you hate the show or if I need to do something better or change the colors or the screen resolution or whatever. It's just email. It's free, etc. So, okay, that's just what I wanted to I wanted to move that slide to the beginning today. Speaking of today, actually, it's my birthday. So this is actually my birthday show to you. So anyway. Okay, so today, Tim Tripcony is not actually going to be on this show, but he's the guy that I had a little Skype chat with a little while ago, and he said, "Oh, let's do a series together and kind of go over some of these concepts that he and I were like talking to ourselves," and I said, hey, that's a great idea. So Tim Tripcony is a great developer. He's all over Stack Overflow. His stuff is worth reading, even if you didn't ask the question, just to learn it. His history of his comments and answers and things like that. He works at Best Methods. He's a business partner. He does mentoring. He does all sorts of mobile. I didn't know he did admin, but probably Best Methods does admin. Custom development, but he's just an all-around expert. So he's not on today's show, but I think the plan is that I'm gonna kind of like set this up, and then Tim's kind of gonna run with this and do a couple episodes to expand on some of these concepts. Okay, so what are the concepts? We're going to talk about XPages and Java, which we've talked about in the show before, and get ready for this. We're going to talk about it again because it is that important and it's worth your while to get into this world. But I'm not going to try to convince, we're not going to do the hard sell. We're just going to do a little review of the hard sell. But what are we talking about? We're talking about binding our pages to objects rather than direct documents. Okay, and there's 100 reasons why you want to do this. I just have like two here that probably aren't even the best reasons, but it keeps your business logic in one place. The more code you get off the X page and out of that editor and out of server-side JavaScript, really, the better off you're going to be. Forget the fact that it's going to be faster. It's just easier to read in these Java packages and classes and stuff like that. And the syntax is not that tough. But again, no hard sell here. But the cleaner code also makes it more reusable because once it gets out of the X page and inside the Java object itself, well, now any custom control can use it. Any page can use it. Any database can use it, really. There are ways to do that. So there's a lot of advantages to doing that. And again, see other shows for that one. So how does it work overall at a high level is you load your object from a document. So the document feeds this Java object and then you throw away the document itself. You're done with it. Okay, so now you've got a Java object that represents your notes document, and then you provide getters and setters to access your fields, which is actually the point of the show, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And in addition to the getters and setters, you provide methods for anything you want. So you typically have a load method, you have a save method, maybe you have a remove method that first, before you remove it, it checks if you've got the right access rights or creates a log record. Maybe you have an assign method as part of a workflow. Maybe you have a scan from barcode method. It could be anything you want, but it's all in this clean place and these Java objects and packages. It's a great way to live. Trust me. Um, Okay, so it's a medium level cell right now. So, and then finally, you would save the variables and the object back to the document fields. Okay, and then your documents back to the way it was, and you're ready to move on to the next one or in life. So all you do is you load into the object, you use the object, and then you save the object, right? Okay, but there's a conundrum about this. Okay, so again, the good stuff is that it's easier to maintain in the long run. And it's faster to add and change core functionality. So, which really does come into play and is really true. But it is much slower to start with. I'm not going to lie to you. It does not feel rad, rapid application development, because before you do anything, you got to start making these Java objects to start interacting with anything. So it feels like a big roadblock. Okay. Another problem is if let's say you have a document with like 50 fields on, well, you might need 100 getters and setters. 50 getters, 50 setters, depending on maybe some fields are read only and stuff like that. But you typically have two per field, so it can be a lot to handle for big forms. And quite honestly, that annoys the bejesus out of me. Dealing with that because I do have a lot of big forms and there's a lot to deal with. But maybe you don't have to do that. So in today's demo, I'm gonna really kind of show you two things. One is Tim created a starter app, if you could even call it that. It's very small, to just demonstrate CRUD. Create, read, update, delete, and we're binding it to Java objects rather than any notes documents. Now we use the view for now, though the view can be replaced. And inside there, I'm going to go through the code that he did and how he created the getters and setters for just two fields, first name and last name. And we're going to just show you how this works. And then I believe the plan is Tim is going to expand on this in a future show and show us some techniques like not having to have a getter and setter for each field, so you can make it a little more flexible and only use it for the ones you need to, which quite honestly, I'm interested in this myself. I know you can use it with like things like a map and stuff like that, but I'm kind of interested to see it in real life. So that's the plan here. So this is just a setup show. Now I do use source control, so you will get to see it come down through source control, what we've been doing lately, etc. So that's may or may not be of interest to you, but we don't dwell on the source control portion of it today. There's been other shows for that. So hopefully that's more than enough setup. So with that being said, let's go to the demo. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to connect the source control because I'm working on a project here with Tim Tripcony, and we're going to bring it down and then go over the Java stuff. So the source control is not the focus of what I want to show, but I do want to start showing it a little more often and actually using it myself. So the first we needed to go is go into the server-based repository and find the link of wherever it's going to live. Okay, so Tim has already done a lot of work here, and I guess I should notice is as I bring this down, he's done more work than we're going to actually use because in his branch he's gone forward with his code and not moved that into basically the default branch, because basically he's waiting for me as is most of the free world and everything. So if I go to my before we get into bringing it down, I'm going to go to my file structure, my directory. Documents, source control, and he used Mercurial. So I'm going to make a new folder here, and I'm going to call this, I'm going to call this Bean Demo. Okay, so now we're going to go to source tree, and we're going to clone the link that we copied in from the website. And we're not going to use the default destination path. We're going to pick the one that we did before. And I could have made the new folder here and stuff like that, but we're going to just say Bean Demo. And we're going to say clone. So now if we look at the log history here, you can kind of see it's a little hard to just determine everything from the graph and stuff, but here is the default tip, or basically would be considered production. And you can just see that he has continued on doing more work for his shows that he wants to do past that, and he's not merged that in yet. So that's kind of cool because people can come in at different spots and not necessarily affect each other. Okay, so we have that down, and if we just look at the file structure, here it all is, and this is the on-disk project, this directory right here, right? Okay, so what we want to do is, now let's go into Designer, and I've already made a working set called How You Been, and what we're going to do is we're going to come to our Package Explorer, and we're going to import that on an existing project into the workspace. And we're going to navigate and find it, however it is we're going to do that. HG, Bean Demo. Nope, I missed. Bean Demo. How you been? We say OK. We do not want to copy this into workspace. And here it is. Okay, almost there. So now we right click on it, Team Development, associate with New NSF, and this will be local because we're working with templates. And temp. Tim Bean .ntf. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You can name whatever you want. And then we say finish. Now it's building the NTF file that we're going to use. Okay, so now if we, oops. Okay, so now we can see this guy here. This is new, this temp Tim Bean, and I guess we need to add this to the working set. So let's come back here to manage working sets, edit, right here, say OK. Oops, and I switched out of it, and here it is. How you been? And we got a form. This did not come down correctly. I'm going to fix this. I think that's just something that got messed up in the source control. But there is some XPages and there's some Java in here, which we're going to look at. So before we go on, and again, I think this just got messed up inside the source control. This is going to be a view of contacts, this contacts form. So I'm just going to put in here first name and link that here, and last name, just so we have a view of these contacts. And contacts. I think that's the right name. We'll check it. So all this has so far is a form with first name and last name. And he's got an X page in here, and he's using Bootstrap, and it's glorious. And he's got like some links here, and we're going to see this in a couple seconds. So before we go on to how this works, let's see what it looks like. And we're going to come back here. I'm going to move this down here. File, application, new. I'm going to put this on my server. Tim Bean. I like to use lowercase. Bean.nsf. And we'll set this as the temp. It's going to inherit from here. Okay, now just check the ACL. Default, that's good enough. So now we should be able to come in here. And here we go. So we don't have the a default page or anything set here. So we go to the application CRUD, and now looks like we can add contacts. We can you'll see a list of them. So let's see, David Leedy. He's using Bootstrap here. New contact clears this. Tim Tripcony. We can edit this, daily 2. We can delete this. So we have full CRUD capabilities right now. And okay, so what I want to do is show you what it took to get here, basing these things on a Java bean. Because again, that's the whole key of today's show. We're not binding to a document, we're binding to Java directly. Okay, so this is our X page, and over here is our Java bean. Now, on the X page itself, it's not all Java bean based. We're going to use a just a view, and we're binding to a domino view right here, and that could be replaced with Java as well. And the repeat control basically interacts with the view, but the fields themselves are interacting with this contact first name. And again, the contact is right here. So you don't need to make it available. You don't need to declare it or instantiate it. So that's the managed part. It does that business for you. So before we get too far into here, let's just go to our Java object and see what that does. Okay, so we're not going to get into every little nook and cranny here. Just basically the core concepts, but you need to load serializable because you just need to do that. He's loading a couple other packages. Faces context is one. Lotus Domino.document is another to give him access to the backend document. A string utilities, and this is one of the big reasons why you want to get into Java, because these packages are done for you. So there's string utilities that comes with here. You can load your own ones to interact with RSS feeds and PDF files and whatever else. So that's a big reason to get into Java, because you can basically incorporate code that people have written for you for free. And he's also bringing in the extension library. So this would require either the extension library or version 9 or above. Okay. Then inside the class, now the class is called contact model, and again we saw that. I'm gonna keep going back here probably. We saw that right here. So this is the name of your class, or not the object, but just I guess the class. And because it's serializable, it has to have a serial version ID. Okay, which is typically just one L, one long. Okay, and we've got 3 instance members we're tracking here: first name, last name, and unit. Okay, now this is kind of cool. So when you have a managed bean, you must have an argumentless constructor, and he does. And what he's doing is he's in his argumentless constructor. It doesn't have to be empty like a lot of mine are, but it can actually do stuff like set up values and things like that. So the first thing he's going to set up is the document ID if the URL parameter has one. Okay, so usually I do a load, and I manually call a load to pull things in. This is a little more clever. So what this is doing is he's using the extension library to read a parameter from the faces context get current instance ID. So that's basically getting your URL parameter of ID. Okay, then he's using this string util class, and if it's not empty, then he's going to load a document. And if it is empty, then he does nothing. It's just a brand new document, and nothing gets a pre-populated value. Okay, so again, that kind of beats what I typically do. Is where I'll usually have this be empty, or maybe I'll just set up some nulls or zeros and stuff for instance members, and then I'll manually call a load in a before page load or something like that event. So he's concatenating that and doing it all in one. So I'm going to take a close look at doing this myself as well. So if there is an ID, he's going to load this document ID. If we come down to load, so here's his method for load, which looks kind of similar to what I've done. I've never done final here, so I don't know what's up with that yet. He might explain it, but I usually do a string unit, something like that. And what he's doing is he's doing set unit. So each of these instance members has a getter and a setter in here. So first name, here's the get first name. If we come down here, see, it's kind of cool how it highlights all this stuff for you. Here's the set first name. So this is the setter. And here's the setter for the unit. Okay? So he's using the getters and setters inside as well, rather than saying like just first name equals unit. which could work, or this dot first name equals unit. And this is actually a better practice. The reason why you want to use getters and setters inside is in case you want to manipulate them, make sure they're formatted properly and stuff like that. Everything goes through one place, the getter or the setter. So he sets the unit. He creates a blank document that's set to null. And then if the unit is not empty, then he does a get document by unit, just like you would in Lotus script. And once he has that, then he sets the first name and the last name, and he's done. There's some error handling here. Whenever you use a notes domino object, a backend object, you must recycle it, which is what he's doing in this finally block. And yes, recycle is stupid. And if you don't like the thought of recycling, if that seems scary to you, that's one of the reasons the OpenNTF API exists. That's an add-in API that you can get from OpenNTF that a bunch of people are working on that makes this a little easier to deal with, and that'll be covered in another show. He also has a save in here. The save kind of mirrors the load in a way. So he's setting a boolean, and then he's going to do the same thing. He's going to create a document object, and if the unit, the instance member, is currently empty, then he knows to create. He's got to create a new document using the same methods that he did before, basically, for loading. Then he sets that unit so the current managed being, the current object, has it, and then he has to set, because it's the first time, he's got to set the form. So doc replace item value form and put contact in there. If it's not empty and there is a value in there, then all he has to do is get document by unit. And of course, he doesn't need to set the form again, or even the set the unit in the object, because he already has that, because he just used the getter. Okay, and then he does a replace on the first name and last name, and then he saves it. And then again, there's some error handling and some recycling going on. And that's pretty much it. So he's got setters, he's got getters, and then he's got this load and save method. And what he's doing here, and this is kind of really the point of the show where we got into discussing this, is he's got a getter and setter for each field. Okay, and this is exactly how I do things at the day job. One of the problems is, what if you have a form with 50 fields? Okay, well that's which I do. Some of mine might have more, or need an object with more fields. So you can do this. Field 50, right? Okay, so I create as many of these. I can create every field as its instance member. I really hope I'm using that term right. And then you can go into source, and I do swear this is sometimes the best part of my day, doing this generate getters and setters business. Okay, so you can just mark as many as you want. You say okay, and now you've got your getters and your setters, which is great when you have all these fields. Now, there is an alternate approach to handling all these fields where you don't have to do all this setup, which I believe Tim is going to kind of discuss in a future show. But I just wanted to highlight what that was. So this is kind of doing the approach of how I do things in real life, and how I'm sure Tim started doing real things until he started doing things better. So this is the Java object. The last thing we'll look at here is the X page itself. And this is our X page, but I think it is going to be better to look at source. So now inside here, now he's binding to a view, the contacts, which again, I think I mentioned could be a Java object itself and might be in another show. And there's no before, after, there's no event handling in here, because the bean takes care of it automatically from the URL. Okay, so my stuff would have had that in there. He's got some Bootstrap in here, and do notice if you're coming from Bootstrap 2 to Bootstrap 3, they changed a lot of their terminology and how they do their grids and stuff like that. So just be careful about that. The repeat control, he's just binding to a view. The var name or collection name or whatever you want to call it is each contact, and he's just using expression language to get the first name and last name. Now these are coming directly from the view, and these are not the programmatic names. I believe these are actually the view titles. He's got a link in here in the view for edit, and let's right here. So this would be the edit. And all that is he's calling the same page that we're on, the CRUD page, and he's passing in a parameter using JavaScript. And he's saying each contact dot get universal ID. Now this is a parameter of the XSP view entry, which I believe, which is what this is. Okay, so this does not have to be in the view itself because it's just given to us. And then delete, he's got a simple action here, I believe, where he's basically just saying each contact, get document, and then remove it. And then he's doing a refresh. Okay. And then for over here, where we're adding these values, he's got a label, and then this input text, first name, is bound to the bean. The bean's first name and the bean's last name. And that's pretty much it. And then the save button, again, just does contact.save. So very little server-side JavaScript exists on this page. It's almost all expression language. It's almost all fast, and it works, really well. So that's the demo. If you have any questions for me, here's my contact information, which, again, you're allowed to use. And hopefully Tim will come on with a future show soon, and we'll be expanding on this. Thank you for your time.